What is going on, guys? It is Dom here from Clover Trading, and today I want to talk to you about my biggest lessons about my biggest drawdown. For me, a drawdown really represents when a consistently profitable trader goes from making good money very consistently month over month, year after year, into a stretch, usually a short-term stretch, but it can last a little bit longer, where maybe they struggle for, weeks or months, or even just have one really big loss or day that sets them back dramatically from where they were headed and how consistently profitably they were trading. And for me, there's two kind of ways that a drawdown can happen, and the experience I'm going to go over that happened to me in 2019 is kind of a mesh of both of them. But the first one would kind of be you're a new trader and you've got maybe one pattern, maybe two patterns that work really well for you. Maybe you trade a specific market really well. And all of a sudden the market shifts, and it shifts in a big way for not just like a week or two, but more permanently, more cyclically, where maybe it was a hot sector that you did really well on. For me, it was just, OTCs in general for most of 2019 were non-existent, and the opportunities were so few and far between that I didn't really have any opportunity to make money if I didn't decide to venture out and learn new strategies in different markets. The other kind of way a drawdown happens is kind of what I spoke about earlier. You either take a really big loss that sets you back a very big amount, and you have to kind of deal with a lot of psychological stuff to get out of it. Maybe you're used to making 5K every single month trading, and then you take a 20K loss, and all of a sudden you know how much longer it's going to take to get back to where you were. And so that can kind of bring in a lot of issues, and those issues can kind of be FOMO, over trading. You get really poor risk management, and you start to take bigger losses and bigger losses. You start to fight stocks, all these kind of mis-execution things, I would call them, where you're not trading your system anymore. You don't really have an edge, and it's all kind of stemming from one big loss or a period of losers that happens over a stretch. The biggest drawdown I think that mattered to me the most during my 6.5, 7 years of trading happened in 2019. And we can follow along here these monthly P&Ls that I used to do, and these aren't exact numbers. They were just numbers I took from the brokerages on that day of. I think this was pre where it was like the wash sale was in there, so they should be pretty accurate, but they're not exact. They're just for me to kind of see where I'm at day in and day out, month after month, to kind of track my progress for myself. I got profitable in 2017, and 2018 was kind of my first full year where everything really worked for me and I was making consistent profits. And this is the tail end of 2018 here. The money's coming in, the trades are really good, the loss days are really small, all stuff I want to see when I'm trading in flow and trading really well. 2019 starts. Jack Kellogg moves in. I'm like growing exponentially. I'm learning a lot, and the money continues to follow. And at this moment, OTCs are really well. And for me, my blueprint up to this point had been ditch all listed stocks, all short selling, and just focus on first green days, breakouts, and panic dip buys for OTCs, because that is where I do the best and that's where I make the most money. It had been working really well for me, just milking that specific niche. In February, I had a pretty solid 2017. I don't think it was quite six figures. 2018 was my first six-figure year. And 2019, to start it off with, a $26,000 month and then a $71,000 month, everything started to just kind of snowball. It was like I was growing so fast, and the market was also there for me. I kind of changed my perspective. I got a little too ahead of myself, started to think I was better than I was. And this all kind of got married to the fact that the market shifted dramatically and OTCs were no longer there. There was no liquidity. Patterns weren't showing up. When they did show up, they were so illiquid that if I took a loss, I was losing an extra 20 or 30% in slippage. This was the first time I really dealt with a big drawdown, where I learned you can't just dig your heels in and fight. You have to listen to the market and adapt. And this was the first time I really had to do that. And it kind of slapped and punched me in the face, if you will. And this is kind of what I talk about when it was kind of that overarching big theme of the market shifting, which led to this drawdown. But it also kind of it was exploded on by the fact that I took some big losses. And you see here a $20,000 loss for me at that stage was huge. At this time, I was risking about $200 a trade. So to take a $20,000 loss, it hurt really bad, and it set me back quite a bit. Although I was still very green on the year, kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, okay, there are some kinks in my armor. I'm capable of making mistakes. The market doesn't just have to work. And things did get scary for a while. So after having this period of success, struggling in 2016 and 2017, figuring it out, of my first profitable year in 2018, and then 2019 starting off as well as it did, for it to take this turn, I felt like there was a lot of added pressure. I'd grinded for so hard and so long. Everyone was starting to pat me on the back, go, wow, I didn't believe you when you left school and didn't get a real job, that you wouldn't be able to do this. And here you are doing it. You're part of the top 5 or 10%. Things are great. You love talking about it when you're doing really well. But during this period, I kind of just put my head down and went into the weeds because it was like, it's hard to talk about. What if I can't do this forever? What if I'm not as good as I thought I was? What if OTCs was the only thing I knew how to do in the market? And since those are gone, I can't make any money. So there's all that extra added pressure and stress that really weighs on you while you're trying to make these really important decisions about your business and your career. Because at the end of the day, we really are the CEO of our own trading careers, and we're the only one that really matters, whose only input matters, whose only work matters. At the end of the day, whose only results matter. Following that big red month was another pretty good sized red month, and then ensued 6 to 9 months of pretty break even trading. In a second here, I'll get into the 3 big lessons that I learned, the overarching themes. What you don't see behind the scenes of this monthly P&L here of during that stretch when things were really hard from March through the beginning of 2020 was that I was really putting my head down and doing what I did in 2016, 17, which was learning the markets all over again. Instead of thinking, I have the ticket to success, I can make money any day. Those patterns weren't there anymore. So I had to adapt. I had to network. I had to talk to other people, figure it out for myself, and really grow as a trader once again and add some different systems and edges to my arsenal and really build my blueprint for what I have now just a few years later. So the first big lesson I had coming out of that drawdown period was to change my perspective. Instead of, that first few weeks or months of that drawdown period, it was a lot of victim mindset, a lot of thinking, you go from such high highs to such low lows. It's really easy to get down on yourself, and it's really easy to kind of play the victim and say, okay, why did the market have to do this? If the market just had some hot sectors or so OTCs were hot, I'd be just fine. When at the end of the day, the market really doesn't care. So instead, you have to shift your perspective and to go into a growth mindset, go into that curiosity that you had when you first started that said, I got to learn how to do this. It might take me some time depending on how bad the drawdown was or how long it's been going on or how many gains I've given back. It's going to take time, but it took me time the first time. And look where I am. I figured it out. I found an edge in the market and I can do it again. So it's just about changing that perspective. For me, it was just understanding that it was necessary for my own growth and learning how to adapt in the future, because I don't know really any traders who have one pattern that fits every single market. You're going to go, if you're going to do this for a long time, you're going to have to ride with the ebbs and flows of the market. And that means being able to shift your strategies up, changing them, tweaking them here and there, or just learning brand new ones that fit in specific markets and going back to your bread and butter when those show up. And the last thing about changing your perspective is that, you learn a lot about yourself during those tough times. You don't really learn too much about yourself when things are really going great. Everyone's patting you on the back. Times are good. You learn about yourself when you hit those lows, those rock bottoms, those nights when you just don't know if you're ever going to be able to figure it out again. And then you do. It toughens you up. You learn a lot about yourself, and those moments are really important for your growth. The next thing would be to just understand and expect that it's probably going to happen again. And if it hasn't happened to you, it's probably going to happen to you at some point. Very rarely do people just go top left to bottom right consistently year after year on their P&L curve. There are going to be those ups and downs. And that's what makes trading so hard, is that it's so hard to stay at a high level for so long. Even if you look at professional athletes who have ups and downs in their career, it's just so hard to be consistently great. Like I said in the previous lesson, this is where you learn the most about yourself and how you get yourself to those new highs, to how you upgrade and level up by learning what you learned in the trenches. By expecting it to happen again, you don't just sit back and kind of be afraid of whenever it's going to come again or fear the next change in the market. You'll learn a lot about how to prepare for it. You see exactly what happened in previous go-arounds, what led up to it, what were the psychological things I was dealing with, was there anything going on in my life that led to it, was I kind of out of whack, I was traveling a lot, I wasn't giving it a full effort in the market, or did my lifestyle change? There are so many things, like little keys and triggers that lead to us struggling in the market, that if you're transparent with yourself, you can figure out. So once you're expecting it to happen again, you're kind of always being a little bit paranoid, and by doing that, you're prepared. Once you've gone through it once, you kind of give yourself the blueprint of how to get out of it, which kind of leads me to the next lesson, which is to kind of create a blueprint for yourself, whether that be an original blueprint or going back to a blueprint that has been proven to be successful for you, and to not focus on the money. Be very process oriented. It's very easy to stick to your process when times are good. 2020, 2021, when the market's going insane, there is more than enough opportunity to go around for all of your setups, and you're making good money. It's very easy to get loose during those periods as well. And it's not until we hit the drawdowns that we understand that we're not trading process oriented. That would be the big thing, is not to focus on the money, because if you're consistently focused on the money, it will kind of always be eluding you. If you're constantly focused on how much money you lost or how many trades in a row you've been red, you're not really thinking about the process and about your edge, and that over time you will come out profitable. And if you focus on the process and you say, okay, it doesn't matter that I'm trying to make 5K every single month trading, and all of a sudden last month I lost 20K, and it's going to take me 4 months to get all my money back. Instead of thinking like that, really focus on the process of what got you there. How did you start making 5K a month in the first place? And realize even if it does take me 4 months, I'm going to learn a lot about myself. I'm going to learn how to get through this. I'm going to build good habits. And once I get into a flow state, maybe I'll be met with a really good market and lots of opportunity. And all of a sudden I'll be able to make 20K in a trade or 20K in a month. And that money, I won't be thinking about it as much as I was a couple weeks or a couple days ago. But really just getting back to the basics, focusing on minimizing mistakes and getting back to your blueprint. In 2019, during this drawdown I'm talking about, that's when I built my blueprint. When I had my most recent drawdown for a few months here in 2022, I had to go back to the blueprint that I built and just realizing that that is what makes me money consistently. And it's not about getting all the money back right away, which is what I'm doing right now in real time from that drawdown period. I took a big loss. I took a few big losses. It's not about getting all that money back now. It's about getting back into that flow state, getting some momentum under my belt, so that way if and when a big market comes around the corner, I'm prepared for it, and I won't even be thinking about the money I lost because I'll be able to make so much from my process. So those are the big lessons that I learned going through the ups and downs of trading in my career, and especially my biggest drawdown periods. I've learned so much from each of them. For me, the big thing is just realizing that they were necessary, and every time I look back when I hit new highs on the P&L, I'm just so grateful for those opportunities because they toughened me up. They helped build some more character for myself and let me realize, that as long as I'm transparent with myself, the drawdowns can be shorter and shorter and shorter, and they don't have to be as detrimental. So I hope everyone out there is trading phenomenally. Hope to see you in the chat room. Thanks for joining me today.